Hello and welcome to StoryFellas, a podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
And this is a podcast where we improvise a story outline for you using random requirements or prompts. We roll dice for it. At the end, we tie it with a bow with a title and a segment we call Along the Lines, where we end it with a line that is featured in the film. How's that for a summary of the episode?
That's great. That was great. Can you memorize that now and just say it the same way every time?
Yeah, we're gonna. Story. How's life been, Zach? For the audience doesn't know this, but for us, it's been a hot minute since we've recorded.
Oh yeah, dude. I should be asking you that, to be honest. My life has been generally pretty normal. But you, well, I'll sling it right back at you, man. How have you been?
Well, Hurricane Helene came through. I know a lot of people were affected by that, and North Carolina definitely was affected by that as well. Our house was in one piece, which is a huge blessing.
Nice,
but we had several weeks where we were had no power, no water, no utilities, no even cell service. So it was kind of like a waiting game for a little bit, and then we kind of bounced around different friends and families. Therefore, we could not record because I think I had stuff, but it just was dependent on timing and recording stuff and internet.
And the least important thing in the world is this podcast.
Yes.
So
yeah. So it just kept on having to push a little bit. So, but hey, we have our utilities back. Not everyone in the area has that, so we are definitely lucky. And as I said, blessed. But this is the first time we can actually try to record this show again. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be recording this. Before we started, we were making a joke of a skit of someone whose same house was in a storm, except it gets completely destroyed, and then the husband is just like, thank goodness my podcasting equipment is fine. That's the only thing that made it through the storm. And the wife is super mad at him. She's like, honey, don't you see all the destruction? He's like, hold on, I gotta lay down a quick episode.
Yeah, he just puts on the cans, starts going.
Yeah, his like feet are in standing water. He's like, hey, let me
But we both imagined Tim Robinson from
I think that feels like a Tim Robinson, definitely. For sure. But that's not the case. I definitely postponed this. This was not important in the grand scheme of things when we were trying to make sure everything's safe and working. So yeah, prayers. If you're a praying kind of person, send them out to the people involved. And I know that right after that, Hurricane Milton came. I'm not sure. I have some family down there, and I think they just lost power. So I don't know if that was as destructive, but North Carolina and that area just got smacked by the hurricane, and no one was expecting it. Like that was the joke I kept making. I was like, this is why we live in the mountains, so we don't get destroyed by hurricanes.
And it was very weird. I mean, in my lifetime, I don't remember a hurricane hitting North Carolina from the Gulf.
Yeah, not like that. Like you hear about hurricanes, or you just get more rain. That's kind of the extent of what you think happens, you know?
Exactly.
You think, oh, we're going to get some more rain and stuff like that. But hey, we're here and we're going to tell a story.
Yeah, you were busy living a story, and now we're going to tell a story.
Yeah. So my scrap is like, there's a hurricane.
Oh, okay. No, this guy's podcasting equipment survives.
No. I do not want to talk about a hurricane right now.
I'll try my best not to come up with anything hurricane related.
Yes. Hold on one second. Sweet. Just making a little note here. All right. We're going to roll on my board today. So we're going to dive into this story, and I need you to roll a 10-sided die for me.
Classic. Here we go, folks. Rolling it. I rolled a 1.
Ooh, a 1. Okay. I know. I think this could be funny or devastating, depending on what sauce we put on it.
Yep.
A breakup text message goes terribly wrong.
Cool.
Is the prompt there? Let's do some requirements though. Give me a D10 again.
Oh, D10. Okay. Well, let's see. I rolled a 4. I'm rolling on the world's most loaded, low numbered die.
Okay. Let's see. This one says baseball caps need to be a plot point of the story. So somewhere there, a baseball cap is like a distinct plot point.
Okay.
So
pretty easy.
I think this is pretty open. This is very open world as far as stuff goes. So
I think we're in a comedy. I think.
I kind of feel like a comedy. Yeah, I was gonna say we could roll for genre, but I kind of want to just lean into comedy and see if there's some drama we can pull out of it.
Totally.
A little bit.
You know, when we're gonna get it either spooky or we're gonna get it, supernatural. Yeah. I feel like to make ourselves not bored.
Yep. Usually we're like, I'm bored with this real drama. Let's make them kangaroos instead and do Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah, Kangaroo Jack 2, and they can text.
And they can text in this one. Hey, wait, you didn't hear me. And they can text. What?
Oh, unlimited.
Unlimited texting. They're like, you don't have to clarify that. People have had unlimited texting
for like 15 years. Yeah. Okay. So a text message breakup goes horribly wrong.
Yeah. I think my mind goes to, where like the guy is like, I hate to say this, but it's over. And then I don't know, he dies or something. Like he drives off a cliff or something like that. Something extreme like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We also did. I just re-listened to Tough Stuff, which is past episode about parents getting kidnapped during a Zoom call. So I feel like
they scout me. They scout me. The
Jimmy Stewart's in that one. If you want to hear a lot of Zach doing Jimmy Stewart impression, you should go listen to Tough Stuff.
Right. It's a good one.
It is good. It's fun. So I want to make it different than that.
Yeah.
And maybe leaning into, because that one was very grounded. So maybe we do lean into supernatural in this a little bit.
I think so.
Make it a little distinct.
I think it would be funny if a guy said, that wasn't me breaking up with you. That was a demon inside of me. That's funny. As well as I didn't actually break up with you. That sounds like the
lamest excuse from like some tool of a guy. He's like, I was possessed.
Yeah.
Or that's what we lean into. It's like, I don't know what came over me. Like, she's like, he keeps on saying this wasn't him. Like, he's not this guy. And then we cut to him and he's really being possessed. Like, no.
And he's got like blacked out eyes and everything. He's just, she's like, that date.
He's like levitating.
Yeah. That date to the really nice restaurant went so well, and it's like cut back to him just being like, just like looking at the wait staff being crazy.
We could do a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde-esque thing, almost sci-fi, supernatural.
That he transforms, or are you saying just with the demon?
We could do the demon. I just don't know if I was just giving an alt of it's the same concept that something takes over him, but we just go away from the demon aspect and it's more into this. I don't know.
We could do an alien,
Dr. Jekyll, or the Nutty Professor, if you will.
Yeah, Nutty Professor's so good, dude. So good, holds up. That part where he gets his fat gets so big and it encompasses the. I think it's like the doctors in an operating room. It's like a dream
There's like some reason. It's like some weird science thing. Oh yeah, and everyone's like pressed up.
Yes,
the glass. Yeah. The quality film.
We need people who have uncontrollable fat growth as like a plot point.
Yeah, that would be perfect. But yeah, so I like the idea of maybe this like multiple personality situation, and we could just go demon monster if you want, or we could go more sci-fi. This is where he drops some hot stuff.
The little light bulb in my head goes off. It's his tapeworm. It's his tapeworm that's like sentient. Or not. Maybe he's just like, my tapeworm did it. And he's just an idiot.
Oh, okay. Let's build on this. We're basically telling like a real budget version of Venom, but he's just controlled by the tape.
For sure.
But it's just a tapeworm.
And he even uses that to explain. He's like, babe, I'm like Venom, except it lives in my colon and comes out a little bit when I poop. And then he talks to me, and then he goes back up inside of me.
Oh my gosh. Jokes just almost a little too blue. Almost a little too blue.
I mean, it's literally how tapeworms work, people. I hope I'm not breaking the news to you.
I know.
Where do you get them, though? Like, that's...
I think you get it from eating, like, raw meat.
Is it? That might be. Yeah, he's like, I'm on a carnivore diet. That's interesting. How to get tapeworm? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think you can either... there's that joke on The Office where I think Kelly says, she's like, oh, I bought a tapeworm from Creed so that I could lose weight. And then it cuts to him. He's like, that wasn't a tapeworm. So I think some extreme situations, someone would eat it. But yeah, eating raw meat. And I don't even know if we want to introduce... It's kind of funny to me. It feels very Tim Robinson sketch if we don't see him get the tapeworm.
Yes.
You know? We skip the Osmosis Jones, Bill Murray eating a monkey egg.
Yes, we skip. Yes, I was just thinking about Osmosis Jones the other day. Yes, this isn't. I mean, maybe we could shift into an animated movie. That would be kind of funny. I do have a title already, and it feels like a Tim Robinson just because he's on top of the brain. Obviously, it's me, my tapeworm, and me.
And I?
No, no. It's just me, my tapeworm, and me.
So it's like not even grammatically correct.
No.
Me, my tapeworm, and me.
It just feels like something that I mean, yeah. Anyway, Eric Andre.
I kind of like it. I like the idea of this does feel, in a way, a parody of Venom, because I think it would be funny if it was. So this either happens in his head. Or it does happen in real life where we love puppets. We love our puppets.
Oh, we get the puppet. Yeah.
The puppet comes over his shoulder and we don't say where it comes from. Like it just comes out of his shoulder.
You know?
But I like the idea that he gets a tapeworm and, okay, we're really flying wild from this prompt, but maybe he eats a burger at a cookout.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude,
he didn't mean to.
His friend's like, dude, that's like basically raw. He's like, it's rare. It's rare. I like it rare.
It feels like Tim Robinson. He's just like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's like completely rare. He picked up like the wrong plate. He picked up the plate that hadn't been cooked yet.
He eats it, or he eats half. Maybe we don't need to make him that dumb, but for some reason he eats that. They're like, you might want to go see a doctor. I think I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm okay. And then we cut to him like just totally sick out of his mind.
We cut to him at the doctor, and they say, no, you have a tapeworm. We're going to prescribe some medicine. This should take care of it. It'll clean out your system. And then he's at home and he's looking at the medicine and he's like opening up, and this deep voice is, no, don't do it. He's like, what? And then the tapeworm, and whether we see it or it's in his mind, maybe other people don't see it. And I do like the idea. It's kind of funny and wacky. Tapeworm
it doesn't have to do it
personified.
all the time. It doesn't have to do it all the time, but I do think you can hear it in his head.
Yeah, I think seeing it, especially in some key like moments where it's just him, is like, are you real?
I like the idea. This is Devastator Zach, where he's just like, he's being driven insane by the tapeworm and its desires to eat certain things, which I love. He's like running around. This is so Tim Robinson. He's like running around at like restaurants and stuff like that have outdoor seating. And he's just, that's very much the funny version of Venom, obviously. But he gets so like, maybe after the tapeworm makes him break up with her, he's like, I took the liberty of breaking up with Deborah for you. And he's like, what? No, I was going to propose. And he's like, no, she was evil.
I ate the ring. I ate the ring.
Yeah, that's funny. We'll call him Tim. He's just like, I'll shoot you out of my head, and he's just like, I don't live in your head.
That's a good because he doesn't.
And then after that, he can start coming out. I feel like that is funny, or maybe that's like something we build up to.
No, I think I actually really am enjoying this. This feels like an indie level movie that's just wacky comedy. This feels like a Daniels Brothers thing.
Yeah, that's good. So it's the Daniels directing Tim Robinson.
Or the Daniels.
Yeah.
It's the Daniels who and Tim?
Directing Tim Robinson as an actor.
Oh, yeah. Whether it's actually him or not.
That's just for the visual, for the listener, obviously. And if you don't know who these people are, go check them out. They're great.
The Daniels. Yeah, let's do a little aside. The Daniels made Everything, the Swiss Army Man. They made Everything Everywhere All at Once. They do very wacky, crazy,
very kinetic
kind of comedies
and dialogue-driven comedy at the same time. It's a really good mix.
Yeah, they make some good stuff. Tim Robinson does over-the-top absurdist sketch humor, which some is a little vulgar sometimes, but it's the absurdity we're going for.
Yeah.
And I think we're going way absurd. And then if this was an actual story, we could ground it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like that. I think you sent me an Instagram thing where some writer saying people want the writer to go big.
Yeah.
Because the person who's wanting to hear the idea doesn't want to hear the tame idea. They want to hear the craziest version of the idea.
Yes.
And then you could always mute it later. But you don't want like a boring idea and we're like, I guess I'll spice it up. We want the crazy idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always easier to walk back crazy than it is to inject crazy after the fact.
Except unless you're us, we inject crazy all the time.
Oh man, we are injecting left and right.
I like the idea. So I'm going to pull up my little story circle just to actually make this follow the real boy.
So it's a little bit of a superhero origin story, like you said, with Venom. So he obviously, the tapeworm is like bullying him.
I think he's kind of in a way a man-child a little bit.
Yes.
Which I think makes sense because if he's going to be stubborn and I think
that's the whole point is the relationship. Like the real story is the relationship is about him like stepping up basically. So I think that makes sense. I do think the twist here is going to be the fact that the tapeworm figured out something bad about Deborah. And he was protecting because he's a parasite and he needs to protect his host.
Yeah. I think that could even happen a little later that this tapeworm, he gets his tapeworm. We establish Tim is this guy, but he's a little immature in some ways. He has plans to eventually propose to his girlfriend, Deborah. Deborah is what you said her name was.
Yes. Maybe he has his like grandmother's ring, or his mother gave him her ring, and we can make that.
So
funny.
he's sitting on that. He's not ready yet, but he's thinking soon. He goes to a cookout. We establish that he's not really.
He's at a cookout.
He has some growing up to do
with Deborah's family. I like that. It's like Deborah's dad is manning the grill, and he's like a man's man, and he's like, son, real men don't eat them like totally charred like that. Maybe he's like cooking them for the kids and they're like super well done. And he's like about to eat it. And he's like, oh, you're really going to eat that? And he's like, no. And he goes for the raw one. He's
yeah. Or even if it's not full raw, where he goes on the grill slightly.
And grabs it off
5
the grill.
5 seconds. He's like, I'll take that one. And he eats that thinking that he's impressive, and he's not.
It's the idea of the fake weird masculinity, the fake stepping up is like, oh, it's the artificial things. It's not about like how I carry myself, my character or anything. It's I can perform it and then that's it. I love the idea that he grabs it right off the grill, and it had been on the grill for like literally 5 seconds, and he's like 5-second rule, and there's like maybe Deborah's brother that's like, that's not how that works.
That's for dropping food, and it's hot. It's hot when in his mouth. He's like, I think that makes sense. That also kind of grounds it a little bit. It's dumb, but it makes sense that this character would try to do something. Yeah, like
he
that,
is dumb. I think Tim is the dumbest character we've ever had, easily.
I think that's true. So they're you basically ate raw meat. You might want to. You're not supposed to do that. He says, no, I do this all the time. It's great.
It's carnivore.
And then we cut forward to him feeling, he powers through this dinner. They're eating dessert later. The girlfriend's there. She's like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Hard cut to him just being sick as a dog in his bathroom.
Or maybe it is in-laws or his future in-laws' bathroom.
Yeah,
he goes into their master suite.
He's
just like,
he's very pathetic. This is dream scenario-esque pathetic.
It is, yeah. It's a little Dumb and Dumber, you know.
Yeah,
he's not like going full Jeff Daniels, like destroying the toilet, or maybe he is, and that's funny. We're like 10 minutes into this movie. And they put that near the end of the movie. We put it at the beginning of the movie.
At the front. This is in the trailer.
Yeah.
So I think we hard cut to. And I think we have to show Deborah giving him a lot of grace throughout that, because otherwise you would think, why is anyone even spending time with this guy?
Yeah. Well, we need to spend a moment that's like, we see their relationship for what it is. They do like each other.
Yeah.
Maybe she is more embarrassed by him.
Yeah. Or almost embarrassed for him in some ways as well. I think clearly she would be embarrassed by him.
That's true.
When this happens in front. But part of me, I think the little root, the little thing she's hanging on to is, you're a good guy. Maybe he's a really good guy when it's just the two of them, and he keeps on acting like he has to step up and does this dumb stuff to impress the other people they're around.
Yeah. It's the classic, this was a really popular trope of like forgetting, like that they were a good guy, but they forgot. I forgot it was our wedding day. That happens in Flubber with Robin Williams. You know, it's that kind of thing. Like maybe if Tim had a job that, you know, he was really good at. That's the thing with Flubber anyways. Like Robin Williams is clearly a genius.
Yeah, that kind of that's the whole thing with Michael Scott in The Office. I don't know if I talked to you about that. I saw a video essay where they talk about first season, he was almost not tolerable at all.
Yeah.
Because he was just rude and bad and not good at what he did. And the main thing the writers changed is that actually in season 2 and onward, he's actually really good at his job. Mm-hmm. And because he's competent where it kind of counts, he can be incompetent in these other areas because he's not a complete mess up, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So I think that makes sense. Maybe I kind of think office job, but I think we can get to that in a bit. I kind of want to.
So there's like a set piece at work. I do think it should rope back in.
Yes.
However that might be.
I just picture there's a break room and he nails a meeting, maybe with the tapeworm helping him. Mm-hmm. Although I do want to establish that he's good at it without the tapeworm, but then maybe the tape.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like he nails the meeting and then, you know, like goes to do a handshake with like the like some big CEO or whatever that he, you know, I just imagine they were like Japanese or something, like they don't speak English, they have a translator or whatever, and he like goes to shake the hand and it's just this pile of tapeworm comes out and just like he's just like,
like out of the sleeve?
Out of his, he's been like helping him, like, you know, like moving his clothes. And he just like at the end, he's like, oh yeah. And he's just like, oh my gosh. And then it just like hard cuts to him being fired.
Oh man. If we want to go the full, he gets fired, which I think could work, but I was going to say he also, it could be that kind of bit where he's hiding it. He's like, and they're like, oh, do you need something? He's like, I've got to use the bathroom. And no one really finds out the thing. But I like the idea that it materializes. That's the supernatural aspect, that it gets strong enough and he keeps it long enough that it starts manifesting in his body other ways, and eventually possessing him and controlling him.
Well, I was just thinking that it was coming out, but there's so much of it, like the classic tapeworm.
Oh gosh.
That it actually like just goes up into his clothes and it can, you know, there's just that much of it. And actually, I have another twist. That I think is really funny. It makes a little bit more sense of the title. One, the title is it's a working title, obviously, Me, My Tapeworm, and Me. But it makes fun of those indie comedies. And I think even Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl was one that came out of Sundance a couple years ago. And it's about like these two friends that befriend a girl with cancer in their high school. Anyway, it feels like that type of template. But come to find out that Tim is actually a tapeworm. Like, you don't have a tapeworm, you are a tapeworm. And so he is some sort of like, you know, mutant hybrid or whatever. And but yeah, I think that's just like that next level twist. And that's the whole man-child thing too, is that he's a parasite on Deborah's life.
Okay, so are you saying symbolically he's a tapeworm, or he?
Well, it would be both. It would be both. Yeah.
Okay.
But it probably works better just as a theme than rather. But that was that next level jump that I could see it doing. Where it's
I don't hate it, but it brings it to this level of heaviness and devastation, because like that brings it into almost this like weird A24, which is cool.
Yeah.
If he's this guy and he's living his life and this tapeworm starts coming to, and then he realizes that the alternate personality is the human and that he was the tapeworm from the start.
Yes, exactly.
Which is fine, but I do think it's harder to complete the story and redeem him,
That's true. I guess it breaks the story into, non-genre territory.
It kind of, which is a very A24 thing to do. But that's kind of one of my bones I pick with A24 is that they just go wacky. Totally. And they don't actually resolve things sometimes.
Totally. So the put more boots on it, more on, more identifiability to it. I think he is actually a cadaver that somebody, and we'd have to build this in somehow. Like he was a dead guy, and they used him in this program. And they put a tapeworm in him, and it brought him to life. And that's basically it. It's like that's what it could explain why his mom doesn't have the dad around. It's like he's like, you were my science experiment. You're my little science experiment. She says that to him. Man. And you're like, oh, she's just being endearing or whatever. And she's like, no, honey, I worked for like a mega corporate lab. Like I thought you knew. And he's
I thought you worked at the fast food place down the street. He just has no connection, no understanding of what his mom did. That is interesting. So he basically, he doesn't remember the early days, and then the tapeworm wasn't strong enough to speak to him for a long while. Yeah. Until later. So clearly he still had enough time to date this girl and all of this stuff, and no one knows that he was a cadaver made alive by a sentient tapeworm. Yeah.
I mean, it feels a little Frankenstein, and I don't like that very much. I feel like we've told a couple Frankenstein stories.
Yeah.
Because then you deal with the person's past life and that coming back into it. I'm willing to let that die on the vine. I think, like you already mentioned at the top of this little conversation tree, is that it being more thematic. Like him being a man-child does make him a parasite. And so then he needs to, become more independent, essentially.
Yeah. I think, I think there's a whole nother story of the Frankenstein thing. And maybe that's something we come back, that idea of this art of, it is just a Frankenstein story in a sense.
Yeah.
When you really tear it apart. So yeah, maybe we put a pin in that and go more the route of him just being a man-child that makes bad decisions against the tapeworm.
Because I think the juice is worth the squeeze in. Terms of this little outline path that we went down. We're now doing a U-turn. Classic StoryFellas.
Yeah. We also have to tie him baseball caps, and maybe we can do that with his dad. I think him being a single mother.
Or maybe he's a
household.
Baseball cap designer. That's his job.
Oh, that could be cool. Yeah,
so he works in
but he's in the business side of it. They do pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's cool. I picture 500 Days of Summer. The Tom and that works at a greeting card place.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Birthday cards.
New hats.
But it's all very corporate, cubicle, and he comes up with cool hats.
I'd kill to have that job, to be totally honest.
That sounds cool. I kind of want to take it to this level of, which I also feel is kind of A24, but more in the comedy absurdist realm of this thing. We have the puppet coming around, and maybe the audience is wondering, oh, is this really real? Is this in his head? Is this is this a symbol?
No, it's not in his head.
I kind of it's somewhere else.
Yeah. No, that's the tagline. It's not in his head, ... It's somewhere else.
But I like the idea of we, towards the end, go full Or, well, I do like it being Venom-esque, where it's like, eat that plate of leftover food from the restaurant.
Totally.
And he just does
He's
that.
like, I'm going to just take over now. And then at one point, because then it's an internal battle.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's the
Which
Jekyll
I
and
do
Hyde.
think up to that whole point, people could argue. They could interpret it. Oh, this is something's wrong with his head. He's thinking this.
Yeah.
I like the idea of towards the end, he goes full split beast mode.
Yes.
And that like
he goes beast mode.
the tapeworm gives him like some powers. Like, I gotta go save Deborah. And tapeworm's like, I'll help you, Tim. And then he's like running on all fours through the street.
Well, I think the like absolute shark jumping moment is like him Spider-Manning with the tapeworm.
With the tape.
Which I do think, again, it just because it's coming out of his
gross.
butt, you know, but there's so much tapeworm that it could.
Yeah, we
literally,
don't ever acknowledge that. We don't really show that. That's like a joke, but we don't ever see it. He's like whipping it around.
I do like the idea of the brother-in-law, the future brother-in-law character. It's just like he's like, what smells like poop? Just like everything about his house and stuff. He's just like, oh, dude, you smell like compost. Oh man.
I think we would have to lean really heavy in. We would have to get Tim Robinson's buy-in. We would say, you're the king. You're the king of this comedy. Will you be in this movie of our Tapeworm Man?
I do.
Tapeworm Man is also very funny.
Yeah, Tapeworm Man. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Especially since it's a Venom parody of some kind. But him going to the proctologist for a colonoscopy is also really funny. Like during this, and he has to like, I don't know. I mean, that's a grown up thing to do. You know, is like taking his health seriously.
Yeah, and the doctor's like, they put him under. And the doctor...
It's like the Dr. Octopus scene from Spider-Man 2. It kills all of the people in the room. He just wakes up and he's like, ah!
Oh, this is so funny, man. Audience, I'm sorry if this is like slightly too blue. You can't think of it. It's just like if it came out of the small of his back, like Venom. Just think of that. But like,
sure.
The joke is that you don't ever see it doing the thing. Probably.
No. This is a PG-13 movie. It's all implied, but I do think that would be really
very, very just like.
Yeah,
waking up
and it's like all of the tentacles are around him.
No, the thing's like super powerful. Yeah, I think that's like halfway through the midpoint because I think before halfway he discovers this thing. It's just talking to him. It's giving him advice. It's this is how you be a man, Tim. I'm going to tell you, and that's kind of the whole thing. It's kind of like a somewhat symbol for toxic masculinity a little bit. It's telling him how to be strong and take what you want.
Totally. That's a good point. And it's a good thematic note because he is having to not be the beast. He's having to be the man. He'd be greater than his id, right? Be greater than the shadow self.
It's a personification. It started from him doing this to a dumb level masculine thing.
Yes.
And it just keeps building on this is what it means to be strong and tough.
And it takes masculine. Him over to the point where, and it's not me, it's the worm, you know, is like ultimately the thing. And it's like, no, actually part of you really did want to do these things. And that's, I feel like the conversation maybe he has with Deborah.
This could be one of those films that is art housey and you get to the end of the film and the audience asks, was this real? Like, was what I saw, which I kind of would like to lean into. Yeah, this world, this is real. This is something that's happening. This is not just a metaphor.
I treat it as if it's real. And I do think, we just continue to lay these bricks, these plot bricks in there.
You keep dropping little things that I think are also good titles, such as It's Not Me, It's the Worm. It is really good too.
These are also lines too. I feel like it is in the indie sense. You keep talking about like the A24 thing. It's like a line could be the title of the movie. You know, it's that type of thing. And I
think coming back to the story circle, we established the you from the beginning. We established he's trying to be tough in this weird way. He needs something. I think the need to the audience is very obvious. I think he doesn't feel worthy of Deborah, and that's why he acts out like this. And she really just wants him to be himself. And that's clear to the audience, but it's not clear to him. He thinks he needs to be better.
And maybe she has an ex-boyfriend. This is like working within, you have the base soil of your theme, and then you pull the characters up out of it. You're building these people out of this soil, and the same soil, they're built out of the same thing. It's how they respond to being a man and being wanted by a woman, and those insecurities or whatever. And an ex-boyfriend would be like perfect. And maybe even Deborah's dad is like, oh, I really like that army guy that you were dating, and blah, 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 blah. And then he ends up fighting the army guy.
With the worm.
With the worm. Yeah. He's like, this is like that movie, Upgrade.
Oh, where
the guy's like paraplegic and then he gets the AI robot, like nanobots
body, basically.
So it was shot really cool.
He can't actually like feel anything or move his body. The robot's moving his body for him.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like
we got a regular Ratatouille on ourselves.
It's Ratatouille on a tapeworm. I'm like a good chef.
I think we could do a little line in there. He's like, no, you don't get it. It's like Ratatouille.
It's not like Venom. It's like Ratatouille. He makes me better.
He makes me better, not worse.
He makes me better. I like that.
He makes me better. They're like, didn't you finish Ratatouille? He realizes that he's good on his own. He's like, I didn't finish it. I never finished Ratatouille.
Why would I finish a kid's movie?
He's like, I'm a man. Yeah, it comes back to that masculinity thing. I think then he eats the thing. He starts developing this tapeworm.
Yep.
Search the Road of Trials is really the tapeworm leading him on how to man up, in a sense, but it's this really
it's the bad version of manning.
Yeah, I think it works a little bit for a little bit of time.
Yes,
and like maybe he goes to the bar with friends. He's like, "Hey, go to the bar." When the tapeworm's a little weaker, it's giving like more minor suggestions.
Yes,
go to the bar with your friends. So you never go out with your friends. And plus, I'm hungry. And it'd be interesting if he couldn't get drunk because the tapeworm's eating all the alcohol.
Oh, yeah,
but then the tapeworm gets drunk and then it makes him he's like, go fight that guy.
It's like, no. I think that's all very good. And I think even when he starts to turn on the tapeworm, or he could try it in the beginning, like drinking boiling water or whatever.
Oh, gosh.
He thinks that will solve it. He's just like, that didn't do anything.
It just hurt.
Yeah, just making me stronger.
Meeting the goddess, the find part is, I do think things get better for him a little bit. Like it's very yes man.
Yeah, totally.
Where he takes this philosophy and things do turn around, but taking it to the extreme makes things worse again.
Well, it's because his life was so unguided to begin with. And so even the bad guidance can look good until the full fruit comes to pass. So yeah, he gets better at work. He stands up to the bully, all of these things like, and yeah, I do think the colonoscopy is probably the turning point.
Yeah, where he legitimately kills people.
Yeah, the tapeworm
it
actually
becomes a monster.
Does the tapeworm have a name? I feel like he should have a name.
I actually think it should have a name. He's like, can I call you Venom? He's like, no.
That's trademarked.
That's trademarked. I feel like something weird like Tarvis or something.
Tarvis, isn't that the Tervis is the cup brand, the like big unbreakable cups, and then
you can call me Tervis. There's a cup brand named Tervis. He's like, what?
Oh, I feel like the classic thing would be to name him something like Bert.
Bert.
Yeah. But again, that's just like give him a gruff, like Frank. His name's Frank because he's the gruff masculine character.
I like Frank actually.
I know
Frank's
you do. I know
funny.
you do. That's just
he's like, what do you have a name? You can call me Frank.
Yeah.
Just Tim. Call me Tim too.
Yeah. That's fine. I don't mind that. But yeah, the Frank thing. I mean, there's the Michael Fassbender movie Frank, where he's got the big paper mache head. Frank is the name of the Men in Black pug.
Dog,
it's the same kind of feeling. They want like, oh, he's a gruff kind of guy, and he would be gruff. But I don't know. I mean, I almost kind of like him not having a name. Again, it's just he doesn't. He's like, I don't identify with anything other than you. He's the. He's the perfect parasite.
Yeah, he just calls him tapeworm if he needs to address him.
Yeah.
Or he addresses, hey buddy. Yeah, he doesn't really give him. I like that line. You're really spitting some good lines. I don't identify with anything but you.
Because that's what a parasite would say to you.
Which is basically what Venom says. We are Venom.
That's true. Carnage goes the step further and just says I.
Oh, nice.
Which actually would be really weird for the tapeworm to say, where it's like, because he split himself into the plural, or he would do the Venom thing. He would say we.
I think we. So I think we're taking this.
There is no we. There's no we.
Yeah.
There's just me.
There's me, and then you're kind of there too.
Yeah. You're just a tapeworm attached to my lower intestine.
Yeah. But I think that's the point where things start turning a little more south, and he starts thinking, maybe I don't need this tapeworm, starts trying to get rid of it. I feel like there could be a really funny scene. This is very Tim Robinson as well, where he's like, Tim, what are you doing? Nothing. He's like, are you going to grab that medicine that the doctor gave you? And he's like looking at it on the counter. He's like, no. Just like, yeah. I don't know if the tapeworm can like read his thoughts too.
I don't think he can read his thoughts, but it certainly is aware of like every movement.
Yeah, he's making.
He's very in tune.
He's like, the tapeworm's like wrestling him, like, no.
He's like choking him out, and he's like, you can't kill me, but I can kill you, and that's why you're afraid of me.
Yeah, it's true. He's like, if I die, you die.
Yeah, that's what's funny about with the gun thing. He's like, if I die, you die. He's like, I'm not in your head, Tim.
Yep. Then I think he starts. I think that also the turning point would be when things start going south.
Yeah,
I think that's when he takes full over sometimes, and it would be interesting if his workplace was full of some of these toxic masculinity dudes.
Yeah.
And so he takes over, and then he comes in the next day, and the guys like him. The guys that didn't like him, they said, dude, last night was so fun. He doesn't even remember anything because the tapeworm took over.
Yeah.
And but then it also, he breaks up with his girlfriend. He says, she was holding us back. So
that was the text.
A lot of things are moving forward.
It's like, no, I really liked Deborah. And maybe Deborah is like super nice. Like we never see her, like you said, the Grace thing, that's actually what makes her, that's
she's kind of flat, but then she does get hurt by him. And then and
she goes back to her old boyfriend, the army guy.
Yeah.
And maybe not fully, it's like they just like she invited him over to another cookout, and then Tim lands in the backyard, like totally, whatever. And I think they have a fight. And that's how it ends, is like him fighting and choosing to like not use the tapeworm, and just resolve the fight in a way that's like, hey man, I'm sorry, although you do want him to fight. So I don't know.
So I think there's a couple ways I feel like we could end this, and we're almost out of time, but I think we're really close. Is he eventually defeats the tapeworm, which is one option, and he destroys it or wills it out of existence or something. I also kind of like the idea of the tapeworm. He develops the tapeworm in a sense, in a story sense, that the tapeworm comes around. He's like, dude, you don't have to be tough like this. And basically this lesson he needs to learn, he re-teaches it to the tapeworm.
I think that's great.
And then we do have this new, he's like, you're right, I'm sorry. We have to get Deborah back. Yeah. And it's like, but she's about to head to the airport, and she's going to fly off with this guy. He's like, I can get us there. And then that's when the full beast mode, phew, phew. He's like doing like the giant Spider-Man leaps through the like he's doing a thing. Yeah. And they're like, we're never going to get over the bridge. And he's like, and like does like this full Spider-Man.
You don't know how big I am. And he just
and then it's full on just a Spider-Man parody.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if we could give away, but him making a joke. We are like Venom. We are like Spider-Man. And then I think this big, and then you kind of end it on this classic. He, I don't know if he breaks into the airport to have his big talk. And
Because are they going off
security's
to, like on a trip or something, like Deborah and
yeah, it's like not crazy high stakes because he could always just call her or something, but he is trying to stop her before she goes.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. If we want to go super absurd, he breaks into an airport and like just superhuman jumps over security and just Deborah, wait.
That is
and
cool.
then
Just like big
and then
arms and legs. I don't know how he does it, but if you can imagine it, just a bunch of tendrils,
yeah, just and then he gets there. He's like, Deborah, I need to talk to you. And she's like, how'd you get here? And then security is coming. They're like, hey, get that man. And then the tapeworm like takes the guns.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, what is that? And the tapeworm's like, let the man speak. And then he's just there like
guns at everybody. He points the guns at everybody. And he's like, no, hey buddy, whoa. don't do that. Don't do that.
And he's like, all right, I'll just hold him off. He's just like his wingman at that point a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he's like, Deborah, and he has this big thing. The thing that he talks to the tapeworm about, saying, I was wrong. I thought I needed to be these things. I always thought I wasn't good enough for you. But now I see that what I have to offer is pretty great. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to put on this face and I don't have to do this. And if you give me the chance, please take me back. I think we could be great together. Something like that. Something better written than that.
Yeah,
and then the tapeworm's crying a little bit. It's like, sure, make me cry. And then and then she does. And then people applaud and the tendrils applaud. I don't know. Just take it to that absurd level.
Yeah. So
he's like, I think I'm going to go to jail for a little bit though.
Yes.
I was going to go to jail.
I was going to say, so I think he loves Top Gun Maverick or even the original Top Gun. And what we do is we name the tapeworm Goose because he's like, you're my wingman. You're my wingman. Goose. And he's just like, well, I don't want to, whatever. Like there's no difference between me and you. And it's like, no, we're having to both fly this machine together, his body. And so that was something that popped in my mind, but that also fits with the masculine imagery and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And Goose is an interesting name. So if we wanted to name him, I'd be like, okay, he's reaching.
I actually think that's funny, especially if it's more towards the we're buddies now. You're my wingman. I can't just keep calling you tapeworm. I'm going to call you Goose.
Yeah.
I don't know how I like it, but I don't know how I like the name Goose. He's like, you're Goose. You're definitely Goose.
Yeah. He's Lucy Goose. Come on, man.
He's like, we watched Top Gun. Goose dies. I don't want to be Goose.
Yeah. He's really insecure about that.
Yeah.
And then him taking responsibility at the end, and he's like, "It wasn't me. It was the worm." It's like, no, it was me.
It was me. I wanted this thing.
Yeah. And it's like, so who killed those doctors at the colonoscopy clinic? And he's like, that was me.
I wanted to be tough. Yeah, I don't know how we resolve that. If
he probably doesn't actually kill them, like he could just knock them out or whatever. But that way he's only going to jail for like a year or something, for all of the crimes. And I think people would understand that it's not him, but because it's like a supernatural worm thing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's the meaning of what the character's trying to get across, which is that like I am my decisions. Yeah. So he's like, I needed to do better for you. I needed to take more responsibility of my life and my health and whatnot, so I could be there for you, Deborah.
Yeah. And I think it's really funny. We cut to the future. He's post jail time. That he fought to keep the tapeworm.
Yeah.
They were like, we can get rid of this. And he's like, no, Goose is my friend. And then, I don't know, maybe they're married and he's actually getting along with the in-laws. Mm-hmm. Because he's just being himself. He's not trying to put on this face and stuff like that. Yeah. And they've kind of grown to accept him. I like the idea that they're all sitting around the picnic table and, it's like, how's those burgers coming? And it's like the tentacle, the tapeworm. It's like, they're almost done.
It's disgusting.
Not like he's got the spatula,
That's true. I think, what is it? He could, this is going back to the baseball hat thing, just to kind of put a nice little thing on it, that maybe he isn't just baseball caps. Maybe there's a new team for the MLB being created and they need a new mascot and everything. And he ends up like, it's the worms at the end. And so it's like just a big worm logo. I think that's kind of cool because then they could be at a game. Yeah. he
I think
really
that's neat.
nailed that meeting. He pitched that it was the worms, worms survive. Worms are scary. They can be inside of you, whatever. And he does a whole pitch.
That would be funny if he does that pitch earlier at the big meeting. Worms are scary. Worms aren't scary. And then the worm like attacks the guy. Oh. But then he's like, I'm so sorry. He leaves and the guy comes back. He's like, worms are scary.
Yeah.
That's
the perfect mascot.
Perfect mascot.
But I love the idea
I want people, when they see our team, to feel the fear that was in my heart that day.
Yeah. Worms put the fear inside of you. So yeah, obviously ridiculous, over the top comedy, but I do like that at the end that they're like at a game,
Yeah.
And yeah, they could either be at, like you said, the cookout thing, watching a game or whatever. It's just it's a nice way to color the universe a little bit more. That the universe is also a little goofy. It's not just Tim and Tim and Goose. So that I think we've landed the plane on the tapeworm story.
That story went pretty smooth for such an absurd story. And maybe it's because it's so absurd, we could just really hit the classic beats, but just do it in a comedy way.
It's very familiar to us. We talk about the remasculation plot a lot. If you go back to like Dig Deep, one of our earlier episodes, it's got a very similar core engine as this one. A man trying to live up to his masculine role, basically.
Yeah.
Whether it's a husband or potential husband here. I guess them getting married would also be a good ending. Or like her saying yes, like he finally gives the ring back.
The tapeworm is his best man.
Oh, of course. I do think it's funny that it's like the ring just like falls out of his pant leg. He's like, I wanted to give something back to you. And he gives it to her, and it's like nasty.
They're like, ew.
So what are we thinking for title, and then our along the line segment where we come up with a line, which we can just choose one at this point.
Yeah, I think we should just choose one because we had a lot of gold. Before we get too deep into the closing, I just wanted to tell our audience, hey, we got contact stuff in the show notes below. We have a YouTube channel if you'd like to see us talk about this stuff. We have a podcast if you want to listen to us talk about this stuff. But hey, we want to hear from you. Use the show note. You can message us, you get ideas for the show, what you thought about this show specifically, any other scenes that you think would be interesting, other alternate titles. We want to hear that stuff. So hop in the show notes and get chatting with us.
Yeah.
But I think the title, I like a lot of the ones that you said. Me the tapeworm. Me the tapeworm is funny. Were you saying me the tapeworm and me, or in me?
That's funny.
Me the tapeworm and me?
Me the tapeworm and me. I was saying me, my tapeworm and me. Mm-hmm. So it's like a possessive my, obviously. So I don't know. I just like that again because one, there's like a sandwich. It's like the tapeworm is inside of me. You know what I mean? Like syntactically. Like there's two me's on either side of the tapeworm. So it's just a goofy title, obviously. But that at least is like thematically the tapeworm is sandwiched between him,
Yeah. I also think you could go more classic of me, you, and the tapeworm because it is a love story between him and the girl, Deborah.
Yeah.
I do. It was the worm is very funny. It's just very in your face.
And that's like the classic excuse that he's giving. That is, he's making excuses. He's not taking responsibility. It was the worm. And of course that was only augmented by the worm. Like we said, it was me. Self-preserving behavior. Yeah. I like that.
I kind of like it was the worm. Mm-hmm. I kind of want exclamation mark. After it. It was
the worm.
It was the worm. I think this is our second title with an exclamation mark. I think Kaboom also has an exclamation mark. I think this, I like It Was the Worm. Hey, Tim Robinson, if you're listening to this, hit us up. Yeah, we'll talk to you more about It Was the Worm. And we just need to close out with and along the lines. Zach, do you want to hit us with one of your favorites from this episode?
Yeah, I think it's one of the moments where maybe after the colonoscopy, Dr. Octopus moment, where they are just at each other's throats and other orifices. And they have a moment on like a rooftop or something like that. And Goose confesses to him, he's like, why are you doing this? Like, you're just like ruining my life. And he's like, no, I'm taking care of you, Tim. I'm taking care of us, Tim. I may be a parasite, but I love you.
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.